Day. Welcome back to the Lurie Daniel Favors Show. You are listening to me live with my next guest, Dr. Marcus Alfred. He is a Howard University alum. He is a leader within the Howard University Faculty Senate, and he is an associate professor in the physics and astronomy department, which means, sir, we also need to have you back to help explain some galactical space type concepts and questions I have as well. That's a whole other conversation. Welcome to the Lurie Daniel Favors Show. It is truly a pleasure to have you here this morning.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here at anytime. I love talking about physics and astronomy, so anytime.
Oh, Shayla, please make a note. We're going to connect with April. We're going to make that happen. So, sir, there has been a lot of interest in what's happening at Howard University. We saw how last year there was the students who really used some old school civil rights tactics to bring some issues to the forefront and to really pressure the university to make some institutional changes. But what we've also learned since is that the faculty at the institution have also had some concerns. And it appears, according to the latest reports, that we have narrowly avoided a faculty strike. Number one, can you confirm is that the case? And then number two, talk with us about some of the concerns that the faculty are experiencing at this historic institution.
Sure. And tell me if I'm talking too much. I get my academic hat on and I just start going.
I got you.
It is true that the strike has been averted. So absolutely. Okay. So no strike.
Let's give that a round of applause. Let's give that a round of applause. I think that is a good thing. We're able to resolve the issue without taking that final step. I'm an active union member, so I know what consideration goes into determining whether or not you are going to strike. So that is good to hear. Can you talk with us about what the underlying concerns were? And then let's talk about how they've been addressed.
Yeah. You mind if I kind of take my time with it, or okay?
Go right ahead. We got the next 19 minutes, so take as much time as you can.
So I will hustle up. If you don't mind, I would like to kind of talk a little bit about what the university is and kind of what faculty members actually do, and kind of the relationship between this administration and the board and how all that plays together to bring us to where we are right now. So just as a reminder to kind of look at the nature of the relationship between the faculty and the HU administration. Remember where universities come from. They were essentially guilds hundreds of years ago, right? Where you had a group of people that had skills and knowledge that no one else really had. So folks would come from everywhere to learn, to get advice, to figure out how to solve problems that they couldn't solve anywhere else. So the modern university is essentially kind of based on that. And what you'll hear is that folks will say the faculty are the university. And that's not said out of arrogance or anything, or to be provocative. It's just a reminder that the faculty train students, they conduct the university's research. And historically, universities had boards and administrators to take care of day-to-day operations and management, allowing the faculty to deal with producing the value of the university. That's the unique knowledge, expertise, and skills.
Yeah.
So students attend universities because they can get this kind of knowledge. They can get these things they can't get anywhere else. Corporations and government agencies seek faculty for these specialized fields. As older faculty retire, younger faculty are brought on board with new skills and knowledge. So that's kind of the faculty take on this. And it's not just me, it's not just Howard faculty. This is actually kind of universal. And HU.
One of the things I like about that is that it's a different way of thinking about the university. Oftentimes we think about the university as centering the needs of the students, but the students' needs can't get met if the people who provide what the students need, the faculty, if their needs are not being met. It's often presented as a one half of a coin, but I think what you've just done is reminded us that there are actually two or multiple dimensions to this relationship.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so HU, Howard University, it's more like a modern university. It's got a board, administration, and faculty, and we've got policies that are consistent with the best practices of kind of these umbrella organizations that say, okay, these are the best practices for faculty, for boards, and for administration. For example, for faculty members, it's the American Association of University Professors. Nationwide, they've got standards on a ton of things and say this is the way kind of things should be. Likewise, there's the AGB for boards and ACE for administration. And so just a reminder, and I'm coming to the point, I'm sorry, I know I'm talking too much.
I just want to make sure we get to that, those main issues. To kind of sum all this up in a nutshell, these organizations, umbrella organizations, this is what they said. So it's written in a statement, a joint statement. They say the faculty has primary responsibility for such fundamental areas as curriculum, subject matter, methods of instruction, research, faculty status, and those aspects of student life which relate to the educational process. On these matters, the power of review or final decision lodged in the governing board or delegated to the president should be exercised adversely only in exceptional circumstances and in reasons communicated to the faculty. So in other words, on faculty status, kind of like the issues that the non-tenure track union has been talking about, the faculty should say what should be done. And faculty play a similar, when you're thinking about, for those of you who are not in an academic institution, if you're working in corporate America, the people who are your direct reports or the people to whom you have to answer, they are often considered the ones who are most appropriately able to evaluate how good you are at your job. They are the ones who can provide correction when you're perhaps not doing what you should be. They are the ones who know what's happening. I, as shareholder, or someone who sits on the board of trustees who's not intimately involved in the working of the faculty, I mean, I provide a value, of course, but what I don't necessarily have is the expertise to be able to effectively evaluate faculty. That's not my lane. Is that what I hear you saying, Dr. Alfred?
Exactly.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Like, and so the issues that the non-tenure track faculty, the contingent faculty have, the broad faculty, the faculty senate, we actually said their proposals are okay. They should be accepted. The administration had not agreed to this. And so
this was a proposal that was, what was in the proposal that the faculty senate was trying to get approved?
Okay, so let me go ahead. I just want to make sure that I say exactly what the non-tenure track faculty had said. And so their issues involved, let's see.
And by non-tenure track, these are faculty members that don't have the protections of tenure, which means you can be dismissed summarily. You don't get that same level of protection as a tenured professor. There's no job security for you there.
Absolutely. And so they had a few concerns, but one was, it turns out they're the HU's got the lowest paid, Howard is the lowest paid university in DC for non-tenure track faculty lecturers and 19th among HBCUs.
Wow.
Howard should raise its NTT faculty salaries to levels paid at peer institutions.
Wow.
And recently the tenured folks got raises, and the raises were based on a median, a middle value of 9 institutions. our peers. Not the NTT, the folks that are in the union were saying, well, why don't you compare our salaries with the salaries at those other institutions? And Howard administration didn't. Howard administration used a list of something like 500 different schools that were, some were, community colleges, were rural institutions. So the comparison group wasn't the same, and it wasn't fair.
So I just want to make sure I'm following you. So with the tenure track faculty, they used peer institutions as a benchmark for determining what would be an appropriate salary increase. But for the non-tenured faculty, who I often consider some of the most vulnerable in a college institution, the non-tenured faculty, and in a second, I'm going to ask you if you know how many non-tenured faculty you have in comparison to tenured faculty, because often the non-tenured or adjunct faculty, as they are also sometimes categorized, they do a lot of the heavy lifting. Because the number of full tenured professors is insufficient in many institutions to be able to carry the weight of educating the children. So many of the children are being educated by professors who often have to work at multiple institutions, because you don't make it $3,000 a class for a semester ain't really enough. But so they are adjunct faculty, non-tenure track faculty. They are often sort of treated in, it sounds like what you're saying here, because it sounds like what you're saying is, instead of using peer institutions to evaluate the benchmarks for non-tenure track faculty, they used institutions that would, by a variety of measures, be considered lesser institutions, perhaps less fiscally viable, perhaps had not received significant grant supports from major philanthropic donors in recent years, which were blasted all over the headlines. Is that sort of what you're getting at, sir?
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head, 100%.
Wow. And what was the university's response?
So remember, these faculty members have been fighting for, or I don't want to say fighting, I would say they've been asking and trying to have a conversation with the HU administration for 3-4 years now.
Whoa.
And so, yes. And the administration has hired a law firm that's one of the top union busting law firms in the country, and they completely stonewalled and blew off the non-tenure track faculty union. I sat in on some of their discussions, and they were treated terrible. They were talked to like dogs. It was pretty bad. And so
what caused there to be a change? Because I said yesterday, we saw the announcement that there had been an agreement reached, the strike had been averted. I will confess, one of the first law firms I worked at, I'm a former big law alum, or refugee, as my colleague Ellie Mistal would say. And the law firm, I didn't work in the labor department, but that labor department was good at being bad. They were really good at busting efforts, defending racist corporations. That's why I can't stay in that space very long. So you don't have to name the name, although I will do some Googling. But how were they able to ultimately reach some resolve, which is pretty impressive considering the amount of money I'm sure was paid for all those billable hours for those very union busting attorneys?
Yeah, it took our entire community. It literally took our entire community. The non-tenure track faculty, the contingent faculty, the tenured faculty, like me, we got on board and we're like, look, we're supposed to be we're academics, we deal in truth, we're trying to fight for the common good. Howard has built its name and reputation on saying we're fighting for our communities. You can't then turn around and treat our own inside of the university like the folks we're fighting against. You can't do that. So the faculty, the tenured faculty were on board. The alums, a lot of alums found out and got on board. I'm telling you, students at Howard, we have amazing students. They are practicing what they're taught, that they have to live with integrity. You don't sit by while somebody is being abused. You just don't do that.
Wow. Yeah.
And so students We had other union members. We had folks just across the country and the world saying, look, stop it. Do the right thing, Howard. And I think that pressure finally, the administration and the board understood that this was not going to go well. Only more and more people were going to realize that what Howard is doing, and I think that's what finally brought them to the table.
I gotta be honest. We talk about a Kwanzaa principle every single day on these airways. As you may well know, Kwanzaa is a 7-day celebration, and we take each day. Today's Nia, purpose, because this year Kwanzaa, the Nia principle fell on a Thursday. But it sounds like you all were really tapping into your ujima, your collective work and responsibility, right? You said the full-time, and here's one of the reasons we are talking to you and not one of those non-tenure track faculty, because you got tenure, brother. So you are protected. Yeah. You are able to have a conversation in a way that if I'm non-tenure track, having a conversation with the Lurie Daniel Favors Show crew might end up being the last public appearance I give while employed at that institution. So the faculty, the tenured faculty came together, the alum networks came together, the students came together, y'all. That is literally an example of Ujima, collective work and responsibility, making our brothers and sisters' problems our problems and solving them together. Because you good, Dr. Alfred. I mean, I'm sure you could always be better, but you're pretty secure in your situation. That is what it looks like. We saw an early example with Dr., who I'm now calling Pastor Cory Booker, the senator from the great state of New Jersey, who showed up yesterday to defend Ketanji Brown Jackson, and to all of you who were able to do the same at Howard. I am not interested in having just surface level critiques of HBCUs, because I think HBCUs are a reflection of who we are as a society and our community. And I love that when we see these challenges that Howard is grappling with, what we see is people grappling with identifying an issue, naming it, grappling with it, and then figuring it out, moving to resolve, difficult resolve, sometimes embarrassing, but resolve nonetheless. And that, I think, is a model for how our community institutions should be dealing with a number of the issues that they have been facing. So we only have maybe a minute or two left, but can you talk with us about what happens now? Have they gotten the financial packaging that they need? Have those issues been ultimately resolved?
I think it's a mixed bag. I think I haven't seen the final agreement, but I think I've seen some of the outlines of it. I think they've got the non-tenure track. I think they've got a lot of what they wanted in terms of salary and compensation. The adjuncts, I think they got a bigger boost as well. The security part, like you said, I'm tenured. So I have a right, I have a responsibility to speak the truth for our community. That's what I'm supposed to. That's why I got tenure. So these folks don't have tenure, but I think there is a process now so that if there is a grievance, if they're done wrong, that there's a process where the other faculty can say, oh, no, the administration did you wrong. So you should have your job.
That's huge.
So there are parts, but there is a long way to go still.
And isn't that like with everything? Our successes are never the end of the story, right? There's the next round of battle and struggle. There's the next round of challenge. I really appreciate you spending some time with us this morning to explain and taking a few moments to really reshape for us and reframe for us the role of faculty at an institution generally, but particularly at HBCUs. I was not lucky enough to go to an HBCU because I did not get enough scholarships. I was poor, but I now work at an institution. Yeah, that's its own other topic. I'm telling you, we got to have you come back. But I now work at a predominantly Black institution, and I have seen the value that our professors pour into those students. Do we have everything that every other institution has? No. Do we have the same level of equitable funding? No. In fact, our institution was, I'm going to say, I shouldn't say, should I say intentional? Our institution has been underfunded since the outset. Like they have not funded us the way they needed to from jump. But despite that, our faculty, the administrators who are there, who love our children, they pour into them and protect them in a way that really is reminiscent of how we have to move generally in this society. So Dr. Alfred, it's been a real pleasure having you here this morning. Thank you for explaining that to us. I have you on my list for some science related matters and just understanding faculty and academics from the institution's angle. I think that's a missing element to a lot of our conversations about what's happening at HBCUs. So I'm really grateful for you being with us today to explain some of that.
Anytime. Thank you.